Hello, and let's talk some games, shall we? Now, before we get into today's game, which is Disgaea 4 Complete Plus, do click that subscribe, that like button, the notification bell. Do all the usual things that you do with YouTube channels, but do it for us because we're little channels, and little channels need the support way more than the big guys do. But anyway, yes, on to Disgaea 4. Let's call it that for short, because saying the full title every single time will get annoying, frankly. So let's keep it brief. Anyway, Disgaea 4 is a remaster and a complete, like a Game of the Year edition, effectively, where all the DLC, all the little trimmings have been upgraded and made a little bit better from the off. So there's that, which in Disgaea it doesn't really mean a lot. It means some DLC characters here, maybe a dungeon here or there, and a little bit of fleshing out of the item world. I will talk about all of these things individual, but I think immediately the first thing that comes to mind is, although it is very good on the PlayStation 4, it is also released on the Nintendo Switch. On the PS4, it's good, but I think it's better served, it's always been better served as a franchise, to a mobile platform, because of the way the game is set up. So, personally, on this note, I think it is, if you got the Nintendo Switch, it's a must buy. If you got the PS4, it's more of a required taste buy. And the reason for that is the way it's set up. When you talk about traditional RPGs, you have long open passages where it's just designed in a way to keep you in the game world for a very long time. Whereas with Disgaea, you have lots of sort of dialogue options, but this sort of sense of isometric RPG, which you're seeing on screen now, which is move characters from one box to the next box, and then collect moves and execute and end turn, and all of these things. It's all level based, so it's designed more than any other RPG franchise, I think, for that sort of dip in gameplay. So with the idea of the Switch being based around this Joy-Con, I can't remember what to call it, I've not got one. Really should change that. But around this idea that the Nintendo Switch is equally at home as it is on the move, I think of all the RPG franchises that could be adapted, that could be put onto that system, I think Disgaea is at its best, frankly. But what is it? I mean, I've hinted a little bit there. Disgaea goes back all the way to PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2, I think it was. It's set in the Netherworld, and you, as it's established in later games, is basically a multiverse of Netherworlds. But you don't know that in this. I think that's in the fifth one that sort of thing comes out, and that's the fifth one is exclusively on PlayStation 5, I believe. But anyway, in this one, you play a former tyrant called Valvatores, who's a Dracula-style character, only he doesn't imbibe on blood anymore. He likes sardines, and in his fall from grace, he's took his werewolf sidekick, Fenrich. He's master of the Prinnies. Now, Prinnies are sort of the avatar of this franchise. The Prinnies are the souls of bad humans who have been reincarnated in the souls of penguins who have to say dude at the end of every sentence. So he's kind of the champion of them. And that's the tone of these games. It's very anime-centric, but in sense of it takes the tropes of, or at least in a narrative sense, it takes the tropes of the anime game, the anime RPG, the JRPG in general, and just pokes fun at it wherever it can. The narrative, honestly, is the thing that keeps you coming back to these games, because it always feels so fresh from game to game. It completely sets up a new world. I mean, there's not many RPGs where you can dip into one and it feels like completely irrelevant whether you played any others. There are others, but I think Disgaea is up at the top of that list. It's a game for the hardcore RPG player because it is incredibly hard to recommend. If you're an RPG player, you will be accustomed to your games having a lot of systems. Now that's what I would, besides the narrative, the very playful sense of humour, the Neverworld this, the Neverworld that you get in a Disgaea game, it's those systems. The most famous one is the leveling up. I mean, leveling up is pretty common. It's what you do in RPGs, but not to the extent of Disgaea. See, you have shops in the RPG. It's normal, yeah. Well, you level up the shops. The more you're shopping them, the more they level up. The more they level up, the better the products get. There's a literal level up bar in each of the shops. There is I guess it's kind of a leveling up, but once you finish one of those sort of dip in, drop out levels, you come out to the overworld, which isn't an overworld in the traditional sense. It's more like a base in which you have shops, which you have people, and when you go around this level, there's like treasure chests and whatnot around it. So there's a bit of that where you can heal your characters, heal your team, and the more points you get healed, the more rewards you get. So that's kind of a leveling up system as well. But the king of Disgaea's leveling up system is a thing which is legendary at this point in RPG circles, but it is the item world. So, say you have, let's just take for example one of the early items you get in the game as a piece of armour is a pot lid. Yes, it's that sort of game. Say you want to level up the pot lid and you don't want to spend more money on kit. You take the pot lid to the item world and you literally go inside that item. You go down in levels of 10 and after a level of 10, you can escape, and each level you move down, the stats of that item go up, if that makes sense. So you can become incredibly overpowered in this, which is fine because it's also a legendary RPG for it being the one where you can really, if you like level up as much as you possibly can. I think the level cap's 999, but you can get into the sort of millions of points of damage. So it's a game which is incredibly detailed, incredibly dense. It's fine-tuned everything so it works for like the PS4 era, the Nintendo Switch era. But again, at the end of the day, I do believe that this sort of format, the level system where it's not like a big open world and you've got to navigate it and you've got to find save points and you've got to do all of the sort of trophy baggage. You can just play a level, come out, save, and that's great on the Nintendo Switch. So yes, and Disgaea 4 Complete Plus. If you played it before on the PlayStation 3, I don't think it's worth upgrading to. But if you were one of the people who migrated from the Xbox, and you never played it before and you heard the name and you're curious, I think, yeah, go for this by all means. It's better than 5 on the premise that I was talking about earlier, where this guy just throws too many systems at you. I think 5 went a little bit too far. It's still quite manageable. And if you're on Nintendo Switch and you're an RPG fan and you want something different than the third person sort of running around open world one, again, like I mentioned earlier, this is a must play.